Hello, you're listening to COVID-tinted Glasses with Georgina. I'll be speaking to people from all around the world about their unique experiences of the pandemic, the good, the bad, the beautiful and the downright ugly, covering topics like friendship, family, travel, work, mental health and finding love. If you'd like to join me for a chat, then get in touch at georgina_podcast@outlook.com. Welcome to COVID-tinted Glasses. I'm Georgina and joining me is Zoë Folbigg, author, mother and runner. Welcome, Zoë.
Thank you very much for having me. Hi, Georgina. Hello again.
Hello again. Yeah, it's so lovely to see you. So I know you've been pretty busy over the past year during the pandemic. But since I first met you in 2002, up a mountain in Peru on a charity trek, your career kind of changed a little bit and you started writing books. The first one was The Note, and then you had another two, The Distance and The Postcard, and the fourth one, The Night We Met, is coming out on paperback, I should say, on May the 13th.
Yes.
So that must have been going on during the pandemic. So do you want to give everyone a little introduction to where you're based in England and your family setup and just a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hello. So I'm based in Hertfordshire, in Hitchin in Hertfordshire, just north of London, and live with my husband Mark and our two boys who are 9 and 11. And the setup has been, I used to work in London, and in fact, that's how I met my husband, was on the commute to London, and that's what springboarded the story of that, sort of was the springboard for my career as an author, because I wrote a book based on that. And but since then, since becoming an author, I've been working from home and fitting writing around my boys. But obviously the pandemic kind of upended everything because I was writing my fourth book. In fact, it was due to come out last summer. Just I was doing the final edits for it when everything just went absolutely tits up and I had to just drop everything and homeschool. So it's kind of, my life has been, I've been really fortunate in that I've been able to work from home and work around motherhood and the school run, which was the dream that I wanted, was to be able to write around my boys. But then everything just kind of, like for everyone, the rug was whipped out from under our feet and we had to readjust last year and work it all out. And fortunately, I managed to just about wing it. But yeah.
Yeah, things snowballed, didn't they? Because I think you were promoting the latest book, and I remember you were going for interviews and stuff like that, just getting the ball rolling, and then
Yeah.
literally everything happened. And
Yeah.
then, and of course, when you're, self tutoring the boys, that must have taken up most of your day, really. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I'm not a natural teacher, and suddenly I had to, because I was just doing the final edits, and they're really hard because you've submitted your book and it's gone to your editor, and then it comes back to you a month or two later with all the structural edits, and you really need to sort of sit down and look at the book with a fresh pair of eyes, with all this advice that your editor has given you on how to make it better. But I just had to shelve it because, well, not shelve it, but I just had to put it to one side because every day was about getting through the school day, the homeschool day, and just keeping my boys fed, nurtured, happy, educated. And it was just so hard because I couldn't do I couldn't do edits while I was trying to battle with basic fractions, which I can't do. My kids are both better at maths than I am. So it was really hard, and I did have to just drop everything. And fortunately, the book industry is quite agile, and a lot of books, the release dates were pushed back because of the pandemic. A lot of authors, bookshops were closed, so a lot of authors wouldn't be able to launch their books or have them in shops. And then suddenly everything was pushed back a bit for a lot of authors. So that did give me a bit of wiggle room for the edits, a few months, so I could just get my head down and focus on how the hell I was going to teach fractions and algebra, which
How did
I don't
you
know.
manage the teaching aspect? Did you have like a routine? Did you study at night to be able to teach them the stuff the next day? I mean,
So no, it was interesting because lots of my mum friends had different, the WhatsApps were flying around at the beginning. Some people were really helpfully texting schedules that they were planning to follow. I've always been quite routine based. I was when the boys were babies. I kind of like to get them into a sleep routine, and so I knew that that kind of thing would work for me with a school day routine. I needed to pin it up on our kitchen wall so that we all knew where we stood. So I was quite structured like that. And I suppose, in a way, being an author, you've got this creative world that you can just kind of dive into and write about, what's going on in your head. But equally, you have to hit deadlines and word counts and be really structured in your work. So that kind of, I'm already used to that. So I needed the structure to the day. My boys, I've heard that boys thrive better with structure. I've heard that girls can, I mean, this is a massive generalization, but girls can be a bit more flexible. So I've heard in learning. But I've definitely noticed with my boys that they like to know where they stand. They like to know that if they work till 10:30, then they can have a biscuit and a break and that kind of thing. So I pinned up on the kitchen wall a school day, and we just started with that and followed that. Luckily, their school was pretty good and soon started supplying work, because otherwise I was just going on what I could do. I mean, I speak Spanish, because we met in Peru and on the Inca Trail, but so it was going to be quite a Spanish heavy curriculum, and maths was going to be light. So it was quite a good job that the school then supplied quite a lot of work and PowerPoints and guidance. So I got through it that way. But
they're quite sporty, aren't they? So did you
yeah,
have to be their sport coach?
I did, and that was, in a way, it's good because I love running, and the mental health benefits, are as powerful to me as the health as the physical benefits. So I've run for probably 20 years now. So I knew that actually that needed to be a really important part of our day, is to get some light and some physical exercise. And I'm lucky that my boys are sporty, but it was really hard at the beginning, because do you remember, we in the UK anyway, we weren't allowed out apart from for 1 hour was recommended, or one bout of exercise. So we did shifts. I would take one boy out one day, and my husband would take the other boy out a bit later, and then the next day we'd swap to make sure that we weren't just only having one-to-one time with one child. But we definitely had to factor that into the day, and I found it hard because my fitness had to revolve around their needs. So I couldn't do fitness with them and then me go for a 10K run on my own to clear my head, because that wasn't following the rules. So I had to do my run with one of my sons alongside me on a bike.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
saw that. Yeah.
we did a lot of that, which was, in a way, it was lovely, because it was bonding to have this time together. At times it was infuriating because they would just talk at me for the entire hour that we were exercising about FIFA or dinosaurs or Ninjago or whatever they were most into that day. So it was quite full on, and I didn't feel that I was getting that mental release that I normally get from running. But we just knew how important physical and daylight, and obviously it was such good weather in the UK anyway. We were quite lucky at the beginning of lockdown that we had to make the most of it and get out for our hour every day.
And did they miss seeing their other friends and their grandparents and aunties and stuff like that?
Mm, that was the hardest thing. Well, one of my sons is really sociable and very extrovert and loves to be outside with his friends, and the other one's quite an introvert and loves to just be on the sofa. So one of them struggled more with missing friends. We soon adapted to, we did the Zoom family quiz thing, and they got involved in that on a Sunday night, and they really loved that. So they actually, in a way, had this new connection with grandparents that they hadn't had before. They'd never they'd never done a quiz with grandfather before. But then it became this fun weekly thing that they actually really enjoyed. But it, yeah, that physical, not being able to just be with their friends and play and chat and climb, they did find that really hard,
Yeah.
as we all did in different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, quite often I see you bake these delicious cakes and deliver them to your nearest and dearest. So obviously
Yeah.
that was kind of halted. Or
Yeah.
you make the cakes and eat them, and all of you eat them at home without.
Well, we did do, and in fact, that was one activity because we were racking, when school hadn't quite settled into a routine, and their school hadn't quite set up all the systems in place. And I was trying to think of, right, today we'll do Spanish and tomorrow we'll do baking and things. And so in those early days, we did come up with our own bake off, and that was quite fun. That was a good kind of home economics activity to do. That we would choose. I think we did it once a week in the beginning, and it would be scones week or something, and we'd all make the scones. And my husband, who was mostly kind of locked away in the study room, he'd come downstairs and we'd do the blind test, and he'd be poor Hollywood. So that was fun. That we kind of made a game out of baking. I know a lot of people were kind of stuck in their banana bread. I know you honed a
Yeah,
banana bread recipe, and lots of people were baking sourdough. But I just thought I had to make it, almost give it a competitive element, because that's what gets my boys a
yeah,
bit more interested in something. So we had the competitive element of it, but also it was fun, and we could eat, and that was always nice in lockdown, wasn't it? That was one of our
yeah.
saving graces, I think, being able to eat. So yeah, it was intense,
And
the
didn't
baking, but it was fun.
and well, if you think about all of that, those things that you're doing with your boys, and obviously you've still got to manage the house, you still got.
Mm,
When did you have time to do? I can see your book glistening in the background. The night we
yeah.
met. Yes.
Oh, yep,
Oh, yeah.
there it is.
So when did you have time to kind of? Was it late at night or? Uh,
To write, to
mm,
do the writing and editing. Yeah, that was so. It almost felt as if I was doing three jobs. I felt that by day, in the school day, I was being a teacher or a teaching assistant, constantly kind of printing out and helping them, and going through, or doing a PE session in the garden. And then sort of between 3 and 5, I was then kind of tidying up and getting dinner ready and clearing up. So then I felt like I was a waitress or a cleaner, and then sorting out their bedtime. And it was only once they were in bed, sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock, that's when I would start work. And I found that really hard, because that's when I was so shattered and I just want to collapse in a heap. Um, but yeah, that was when I had to start my work. So, and I'd be going through to midnight doing edits, and yeah, it was full on, and I never really want to go back to that situation again. But um, and it was crushing in January, when the next lockdown. I anticipated it. I expected it, so it wasn't a surprise, but it was absolutely gutting to have to go back to that, and know that I'd be working three jobs, and quite a thankless task. My
yeah,
boys didn't really love homeschool, and then to have to start and switch my creative brain on at 9 p.m. Was tough. Yeah, but it was tough for everyone. So, and it was tough in different ways. I mean, my mum lives on her own, and she was shielding. So what she would have given to have my boys around her, she'd have absolutely loved it. So I didn't want to complain, because while I never had a minute to myself, she was always lonely. Well, not always lonely, but you know, felt lonely, and
mm,
was quite alone. So I don't want to complain about my situation, because everyone had it difficult,
mm,
in a different way. It was quite
yeah. Well,
interesting
and
how.
I don't think it's just really interesting for everyone to hear everyone's different experiences.
Mm,
And I wanted to talk a bit about your books, because every time, the first one, The Note, is obviously based on a true story of how
mhm,
you met your husband on a train. Lovely book. Let me just show
mhm.
everyone. I've also got a lovely note in the front cover.
Oh, yeah.
It is such a good book. And then the
Oh.
postcard, The Distance, the postcard, and the latest one are not based on a true story,
So
or
the postcard, I've got that here somewhere. Yeah, so the postcard was the sequel to the note, and it was kind of based on um they're falling at me. It was based on it's the sequel to the note. So it was actually based on the travels that my husband and I took a few years into our relationship. We went traveling for a year. So that was the follow up to the note. But the distance and when you won the night we met, that this shiny one.
yeah.
That isn't based on true life, although I do pick elements from life always, I think.
And you can really tell your love of travel is comes across in all of the different books, really.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'm so inspired by the places I go to that I don't know how they wouldn't end up in a book. So in fact, the night we met, it we went to Milan as part of a holiday. We went to Switzerland and then to see a friend who lived there, and we were flying back out of Milan, and we'd only just decided to tag on a couple of days city break and have a look around, given that our flight was coming back from Milan, and those 2 days walking around the city just inspired a whole book. I couldn't believe it. I didn't expect it to be an amazing city. I thought it was going to be quite an industrial, not particularly inspiring place, but walking around Milan for 48 hours ended up inspiring a book. So travel has always inspired me, and even I mean, it was hard to write a lot of travel into the original story because that was based on how I met my husband on a train, and that was a very commuter based kind of, Hertfordshire to London, not much scope for travel apart from up and down that track. But since then, all my books have had big elements of travel because it's just always inspired me. The food, the sights, the people.
And that's what another thing I wanted to ask you is like when I mean, during lockdown, are you planning another book? Have you had to plan it during this time?
Yes, so because I had finished the first draft of The Night We Met just before going into lockdown, and I've been trying to write a book a year since I've had my book deal. So I
Amazing.
was Yeah, so and I mean that's quite a lot of authors do that. Some authors do two a year. I don't know how on earth. But
I
but
think your plots are so intricate. Like,
yeah,
and then, one second you're in one country and you
mm,
move around the world and
mm.
the stories interweave together. And I just would find that so, I don't know how you managed to do it during lockdown or in normal life, actually. I mean, it's just incredible, kind of.
Oh, thank you. I think I've always been the sort of story or person to like I see someone and I imagine their backstory. So even on holiday, if I'm lying on a beach, I'll watch a family nearby and then I project a backstory onto everyone, and that it's completely made up and I have no clue whether it's the truth or not. I'm just imagining what different situations are. And so I think that's how these things come about. And then I remember certain things and think, oh, that would be a character down the line. And
Yeah.
so I think I'm always looking for a story, or I'm always looking at people who could be characters. So I think that's how that just keeps going. And like the fact that I did not expect in Milan to be inspired to write a story, but then actually while we were there, we met a friend of a friend, and who was telling me all these amazing backstories about her family and her friends, and that really then inspired me to write. So, and it was hard to start. In fact, I didn't start. So I am writing my fifth book right now, and I didn't start it until the summer holidays broke, until the summer break
Mm.
last July, um, and I'm kind of three quarters of the way through, I'd say. Um, but I just have to keep going, because I found one of the reasons I was so frustrated during the homeschool period was that I wasn't actually writing anything new. And so I had to get to the summer holidays to then just throw myself into a new idea, And actually, I felt better about everything after that. Just getting that creative outlet and new words down on a page just felt kind of like I could,
Breathe
get
again.
through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really did feel like a lot of times I felt claustrophobic, or this is a nightmare, treading water, or I can't breathe, or I'm always surrounded by people in the house, I'm never on my own. And while that's lovely, it just felt like a bit of breathing space to be able to start a new story. But then that halted a bit with the next lockdowns. So that's
Yeah, and I have this vision of you running and coming up with this plot ideas. I don't know. That's
That's
what,
exactly. No, that's exactly. When I'm running, I feel that that's probably my most creative plotting time, because it's when you switch off. I mean, from running that after that first hideous 15 minutes where you think, oh, I'm never going to run for I'm never going to run again, or I hate this, I'm not going to run for more than 5 minutes today. Once you always get through that, and then you go into this kind of slightly transcendental new phase of running, that then you switch off and stop actually thinking about running.
mm,
And that's when I start plotting, or I start, if I've got a slight hump in a story that I'm struggling to get over, or something doesn't quite work in a plot, definitely at the end of a run, I've pretty much worked it through, or it's always better. Um, or I've come up with a new idea that it hadn't even occurred to me at the start of the run, and then I think, oh yeah, I need to go down that road with that character. So it's completely part of the writing process is the running that I
and
do. Yeah.
do you write? Do you have like a spider chart with all the details of or is it all in your head?
No, I have Word documents galore,
Uh,
and then I then get post-its, and when it's kind of coming together. So I have a Word document with a timeline. I have a Word document called characters, and I'll have a Word document which ends up being the entire book, and
mhm,
that'll be a very thinly sketched plot to start with, and just kind of, these are the two people I want to be the book centered around, and this is what the journey needs to look like. But it'll be very thinly laid out. I'm not a very detailed plotter. A lot of authors I know structure every chapter and know exactly how the book is going to pan out. But I definitely don't, because actually I find that when I'm running during the writing process, new things will come in, or little coincidences will crop up and happen. And I'll think, oh yes, I need to explore that and add that in. So I'm not very structured in the way I work until it gets to kind of three-quarters of the way through, and then I start to panic about how chaotic it is. So I get post-its, color coordinated post-its, and I just write each scene on a different post-it. Um, and if they're all about, if they're the scenes that will pertain to the female character, I'll do them all in one color and I'll stick them up on the wall, and then I'll try and do it so it looks like there's some kind of order to the book. And that's when you can chop and change things around and think, oh no, that doesn't work on the timeline, so I need to move that post-it, and then it corresponds in the document. So sorry, I'm going on about my process
no,
a
no,
bit
no,
much, but
no, it's really interesting because whilst you're saying that, I'm also thinking kind of obviously during lockdown you could only do that in 10 o'clock till midnight, and even when you
mm,
were running with one of the boys, that if they were chatting to you all the way, you wouldn't be able to think through how you're going to.
so I did lose that in lockdown, and that's why I think I found it so hard, and was so stressed about the homeschool element, because it was lucky that I had just submitted my first draft of
Mm,
The Night We Met as we were going into lockdown, because I then had probably from March until July where I didn't write a new word of a new book at
mm.
all. And that was really frustrating because I didn't have that space to think, and I found myself climbing the walls more and more. I was more agitated and sort of more intolerant and snappy probably to be around, because I wasn't having that time and space to think and to write new words.
I think
But
it
yeah,
was really difficult kind of coming out of the summer holidays. Yes, perfect, put it back up there.
put it back, and then it can fall on my shoulder again. Yeah.
And where we were coming out of the summer where we had a fair amount of freedom. And I think you actually went on holiday. Did you go
Yeah,
on holiday?
we
So
did. Yeah.
we had like a bit of freedom. Then we came back, and it started to feel like it was locking down again.
Mm,
I think we all felt like that. I mean, interestingly, I got my puppy in August, and so I
did
was
you?
struggling September, October because wasn't getting any sleep, as much sleep as I
Yeah.
was used to, and I wasn't running because you
Mm,
can't run with a puppy, you can't leave a puppy, and so
yeah.
interestingly, I've just started to run again now, crazily,
Right.
so, and I
Okay.
really feel the difference in my legs. My legs feel like bricks, if you know, they don't feel
Yeah.
like before. They're much more floppy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my story. Don't stop running, anyone, because it's
No, don't stop running because it's the saving grace, I think, isn't it?
yeah,
But yeah, my mum got a puppy in lockdown, and actually for her, he's just been absolutely amazing. Um, and we did so I felt we decided to go on holiday with about a day and a half's notice. We weren't sure, and we actually postponed. We moved our flights to this Easter. We wouldn't have been able to do that either. But then we just thought, actually, it felt safe. We were allowed to go to Spain at the time. They were welcoming people, and so we did go, and just that kind of 2 weeks of normality. And I mean, it wasn't normal. And in Spain, they were very much more. They seem more on it actually with the pandemic. Everyone was wearing
everyone
masks.
wearing outside on the street.
Yeah,
They're all wearing
yeah,
masks. Mm.
yeah. And it felt really well organized, more so than it had. I mean, in my local town in Hitchin, there'd be people queuing up for the new kind of chicken shop. There's where there'd be big queues on the street, on the pavement for this new takeaway. I was thinking, this is crazy. They're standing, in a queue in a squash kind of blocking the pavement for a lot of people and no one wearing masks. And we got to Spain and saw actually how different it was there, that everyone was wearing a mask the minute they left their house. On the beach, everyone had a kind of designated, there were marshals on the beach mapping out
Oh
kind of
wow.
rectangles for people to, out of
Mm.
sand, drawing a rectangle for each family group. And that worked really well. And then seeing the pictures of Bournemouth Beach, for example, on the
Mm.
news and how overcrowded it was. So I think Spain were pretty good, and we were glad we went because it felt like it felt safe, and it felt like a bit of respite, and that was lovely. But then coming back and then back into lockdown and seeing the impending doom of the figures, and just the thing I really didn't want was homeschool again. But I knew that it had to happen. There were COVID cases in my boys' classes, and they had to come home just before
Yeah.
Christmas. So it had to be done. We had to do it again. Um,
So
but
how
yeah,
happy are you now that they're back at school?
oh my gosh. Yeah, so happy. I will never take a school day for granted ever again.
I think that a lot
Um,
of parents feel that.
yeah, I mean, I always kind of appreciated their teachers and got them gifts every Christmas, Easter, and summer. I've always been really grateful for the teaching that my kids have had, but I didn't quite realize how grateful I was just for the school experience for
Yeah.
them. So I was so glad when it opened back up just before Easter, and just to and actually I haven't taken a single school day for granted. And it's actually made me a bit more productive, I think,
Yeah.
because I know that it could end at any point. They could be sent home at any point if there's a COVID case in their class, and that's it
Mm.
for 2 weeks, and my productivity, and I won't be able to write for 2 weeks. So I'm really making the most of it, and not taking it as a given, which is a shame, really, because education is something that we should, the kids should just go to school and expect to be able to go to school. So that's sad that they can't. But equally, it's made me appreciate my writing time and just get down to it. Yeah.
And actually, I mean, just when you said they went back just before Easter, I mean, it's just a couple of weeks, really.
I know,
I
I
mean,
know.
we've kind of forgotten. I mean, you might not have because it's a bit close to the, homeschooling, but it feels like that was months ago, but it was actually only like, well,
It's
three,
only
4 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact they only went back. One of my boys got a sick bug in that second week. There was only meant to be 3 weeks back at school, and then the Easter holidays came around, and one of those weeks, one of my boys was poorly. So it just, and then Easter holidays arrived,
Mm.
and I thought, oh my God, they've hardly been at school, and now we've got another holiday. But actually, it was quite good because it was a little gentle easing in back for them because they were shattered and confused by it all as well. And so it gave us all a little baby steps of, enjoying the school experience and then having them home again. And then now they're back, touch wood, until the summer. We shall see.
So now you've got a bit of a respite and you can get on with writing your
Yeah, book
six,
5,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 1, 2,
5th,
yeah,
5th.
fifth
Yeah.
novel. Yeah, I can't count.
So I need to promote.
Hitchin.
I can't count either. That's why I couldn't teach fractions to my boys. But yeah, so my 4th book is out May the 13th in paperback. So that I'll be doing lots of promotion for that. And then also writing book 5, which I did. So I started it in July. I started last July. Felt great. And it really, I had a really good run of it. And then until December, and then I just had to down tools again for homeschool, and I've only just picked it up again. But yeah, it's been great to get back into, and I'm hoping to submit that to my agent in the next kind of month or two. Yeah, it's it's tricky. It depends on what happens, but I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, you're enjoying getting back into the writing mode again. And
Yeah,
so the night we met, people will be able to hear you promoting that in the next couple of weeks because obviously it's
yeah,
quite soon, May the 13th.
yeah.
And just for people that are listening, you won't miss the book. It's a beautiful navy midnight blue background with gold writing on, and a couple of, is it planes I can see? Yeah,
Yes, a couple of planes.
very beautiful gold embossed. The night we met looks really lovely. I love the covers of your books. I mean, obviously the writing's excellent as well, but the covers are really
Thank
well done.
you. I do too. I've been very lucky. My publisher, they've been amazing and really kind of always sent me um, designs and had a lot of input from me and what I like and what we
Yeah,
feel should change. But they've always been really, I've been really happy with how they've come out. So yeah, that's good. And I mean, it's trying to convey that there's actually this book has more travel than probably any of them actually, and that's been really that's been amazing to write
yeah,
because that's when I just get to the kitchen table, especially before the pandemic when I was writing the majority of that, to be able to take my boys to school and then go for a run. And then in that school day from my kitchen table to be able to be in Sydney or in Milan or any of the other places where the book, New Zealand, that there's a big sort of scene that at the bottom of New Zealand when they're looking out over the Southern Ocean, and just to be able to do that in a school day felt like it was a bit of an escape. And then I go and pick up my boys at 3 o'clock and I forget it all until the next day. But it's the travel elements are the things I love
yeah.
writing the most.
So that must have been strange in lockdown because I mean, obviously you have 2 children now, so it's not like you're traveling all the time, but you have
No.
done a lot of traveling. So the thought of just not being able to do it, how did that feel?
Mm. Yeah, that's been hard. And in fact, we've been really lucky, and that my boys have had quite a few big trips. We've been to we've been to Mexico and South Africa with them. In their sort of short lives, I, they're fortunate that and Switzerland that they've done these trips, and so it's been hard not to. I mean, I don't want to sound spoiled because we're lucky that we have been to these places. I
Mm.
used to live in Mexico, so I really wanted to take them to Mexico at some point, and we did. But and now not having that, I mean, in a way, it's been fine. We're lucky. We have a garden. We're fortunate to have a garden and that they can play out there and our local park. But we are starting to dream of when we can go away again and go on an adventure because they're pretty, because they are sporty. And so we went to Table Mountain and hiked up Table
Oh
Mountain in
wow,
South
yeah.
Africa, and they were really gung ho about it and really enjoyed it. And my younger boy loves the wildlife, so he was looking out for all the wildlife on Table Mountain. And so things like that, I really, really hope that we can have some adventures again. I mean, I suppose the way people travel will change.
Mm,
We won't have, I don't know what our options will be. Our options will be more limited in a way because of, how other countries are dealing with COVID. And we'll need to be sensitive to it. But yeah, I can't wait to travel again because for them it's just such an education, and for me it inspires me with writing, and my husband, he's got an adventurous spirit. So yeah, I miss that. How about you? Have you got anything planned or?
no, nothing at all. I mean, I'm kind of using the dog as an excuse not to plan anything. But to be honest, talking to
Mm,
anyone who starts speaking about traveling around the world, even from their kitchen table, brings a little
mm,
tear to my eye.
yeah.
I was speaking to a friend called Marisa, who's in Canada, and she just
Hmm.
did an interview for the podcast. And she
Hmm.
was saying to get to where she's doing her MBA, it was
Yeah.
3 to 4 days driving. And I was like, I just got
My
really
God.
excited. I was like, wow,
Yeah, yeah.
4 days driving, like I just, yeah, I mean, I'm feeling a bit choked up just talking about it. I
Mm,
think that we were very lucky that we have, I mean, I've done a lot of traveling as well.
yeah.
But certainly the travel industry has taken an absolute hit. But
Mm,
how will it affect it moving forward? It'll be really interesting to see actually what does happen, I think.
yeah. Well, new
So,
trends and new kind of ways of traveling, or
yeah.
will the airline industry, will a lot of airlines collapse, and then it changes our patterns and where we can go. If flights stop going to India, that just changes so much. Or
Mm,
um it'll be interesting to see how it works, but I guess we just, any trip now, we're going to savor even more than we did before, I think. I mean, I've
mm,
never taken anything for granted, and we try to say to the boys, we're really lucky that you have been able to, or that, we are going on to these places. So I think, we'll just be so grateful for anything, our
mm.
next adventure.
So, what is the one thing you couldn't live without or couldn't have lived without this last 12 months?
Oh gosh, this is going to sound a bit mad, but probably Zumba or Just Dance. So,
No, it doesn't. It's fantastic. I forgot you did that.
so it was a definite saving grace for me. Was my birthday last May. Mark, my husband, he bought me the Just Dance DVD game,
Yeah.
whatever it is, the PS4. My boys have a PS4, and I have no interest in it at all. But this Just Dance thing, I don't know if you've ever done it. It
No,
was
I quite want to do it now.
it was great. It is great. And on those days, in the early days of April and May, March, April, May, when you couldn't really go out, or if you could only go out for an hour, and then you had to do your other fitness inside, um, this DVD was a saving grace. Also, I've Zumba. I've been doing an online Zumba class with this amazing teacher, and that, just the kind of the uplifting vibe and the Latin music. I mean, as we've said, we met in Peru, didn't we? And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember Shakira being on the radio, on buses everywhere,
yeah,
and just, I find it really uplifting. So I think probably movement and dance, Zumba and Just Dance, that really was a savior in lockdown. Also TV. I've never been massively into sitting down and watching TV. I'm always doing something else while I'm
yeah,
watching TV. But actually, in the past year, I've really appreciated TV
yeah,
as I hadn't before, and watched. I'd never watched Line of Duty until lockdown, and then we've spent the whole time catching up. So things like that, I couldn't
yeah.
have lived without. So, how about you? What were your?
I was just thinking, well, similarly, it was the online fitness with Be Fearsome that we did. That was amazing. But
Yeah,
like I said, at the beginning of lockdown, we literally did go out for an hour. I mean, I was working
yeah,
as well, so I didn't have any extra time. I had other friends whose hour was hours,
yeah,
but
yeah. Some people pushed it. Yeah,
yeah, I did go out for an hour and then I came back and life felt very, very busy and it was like running. We were running 2 or 3 times a week. And I remember
hmm,
beginning of lockdown, we didn't run with anyone, but we go running in the local park, and we saw like 3 or 4 people we knew every single time we went.
Mm,
And I think as the summer progressed, things started to open up, people stopped running, and,
yeah.
uh, now I think everyone's getting back on it again now, but
Mm,
yeah, I'd say, yeah, running and, yeah, the online stuff, and also I felt very, kind of your problem, you had lots of people around you, and that was difficult, and I didn't
mm,
have anyone around me, so it was kind of like the polar opposite, but similar
yeah.
problems because you you just didn't feel yourself. You just felt
Mm,
on edge, and it's crazy, isn't it? Because it's only been we're not even out of lockdown, and I'm talking like
yeah.
the sun is shining and it's all over.
Mm,
Poor India who thought I
mm,
gather they thought they got herd immunity not long ago,
mm,
and now so
mm,
we're very careful. Um, I mean, yeah, we just got to keep our fingers crossed and keep moving forward. But I guess for me, it's fast forwarded a lot of things forward, like me starting the podcast. That would never have
mm,
happened
yeah.
without this past year. So, and getting a puppy never would have happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose they're my real two benefits of, I mean, huge, life changing, completely life
Yeah.
changing things that have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think I would never have imagined that my mum would get a puppy. She was the last person I would have thought, but he has revolutionized her life, and
Yeah,
she's so happy, and happier than I've seen her in 10 years. So
yeah,
actually, these are lovely surprises that wouldn't have expected that come out of it, like the COVID silver linings that I feel
yeah,
that we'll all discover, whether we've all got to them yet, but
yeah,
definitely I think we'll come out of it with these benefits.
yeah. And I think hopefully we all feel stronger. We definitely should feel stronger, braver, prouder.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people have had really horrible things happen, and they've lost loved ones. But
Mm,
we should all just give each other a virtual hug and say, "Well
mm,
done." So I think it's been something we never thought in our lifetimes we would ever have to go through. So
mm. And more gratitude. I definitely feel more gratitude. Um, and then I think, well, that can only be a good thing because you're appreciating what you took for granted before, like with school, a school
mm,
day. And I just took for granted that my boys have access to this brilliant local school, and happy there and great. Or things like we went out for our first meal out in months and months, into a pub garden on Saturday, and just the four of us. It's something we'd have taken for granted, or just just not fully appreciated. But given that was the first family dinner out of our house since December at least, really felt special. Whereas before the pandemic, we'd take these things for granted. So yeah, I think the gratitude is something that we'll all benefit from. I
yeah,
hope.
I
I hope
think
we
so.
hold on to it.
Yeah, we've just got to remember to keep, yeah, hold on to it, exactly. So is there any advice you would have given yourself 12 months ago? If you could go back now, what advice would you give yourself, do you think?
Keep
Right,
on running.
keep on running.
Yeah, keep on running, keep on writing. I think I didn't realize how important writing was to actually my general well-being. The fact that between March and July, I didn't write anything new because I was so embroiled in homeschool. I didn't realize that actually one would help the other, that actually if I was just doing a bit of writing, it would help my general kind of ability to be a bit more positive and get through it. So I think I'd have said, get writing a bit earlier because it'll only help things. And just what would I just that it will pass, when you're in the worst of it and you think these days are, interminable and it's going to go on forever, and getting to actually, I don't know about you, but I found that the weeks flew by in a strange way. And it was
Yeah,
Friday again, and I kind of felt such a sense of relief that the homeschool week was over. And then it happened again, the next Friday would come around, and the next Friday. And so you think that you're in this kind of swamp of this time standing still, but actually it passed. We got through it. It
mm,
kind of flew by in a strange way. So I think I'd say that to myself a year ago. It will pass. You'll get through it. You'll come out stronger. Keep writing.
keep writing, keep running.
Yeah,
Yeah,
keep
exactly.
running.
And I think that it's been a very, very busy year for a lot of people. I know some people were furloughed, which is a different problem in itself. But
Mm,
people who were working and had kids at home, and I mean, I don't have kids at home, but I definitely felt incredibly busy, like, and having no time to step back,
it's
or,
funny, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's what
crazy.
I didn't understand when lots of people were sort of talking about having huge clear out of the house, or getting rid of all, going sorting through old clothes, and um, I didn't do any of those productive things. I thought that I'd be so bored that I would
Mm,
end up doing those things, but I didn't at all. I just didn't have time for it, and
yeah,
I sort of think, how did we not have time when we didn't leave our homes for a
yeah.
year? But yeah, it's strange, isn't it? This kind of busy boredness. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, if you're cooking, you're washing up or putting it in the dishwasher, then you're emptying the dishwasher, then you've got to
yeah,
clean, and because you're at home all the time, there's more mess.
yeah.
And there's more people, well, a few more people at home, there's more, so it's a continual,
It, it was like a constant treadmill of
mm,
surviving, and that's what I found was quite exhausting. But also, then you feel like you hadn't actually achieved much because your
mm,
day was just about making breakfast, washing it up, making the next thing, feeding, watering, educating, and those things that just felt like a treadmill, but left you with no time to do the
mm.
sorting or the DIY, or the shelves that still need to be put up. It's quite funny how it's been this weird time space continuum that I'll never quite fathom.
No, I mean, just thinking about it and having enough food in the house to feed yourselves,
Mhm.
because you couldn't just pop to the shops or buy a
Yeah,
sandwich in the, so that was another, it was a whole new
yeah,
ball game, being having to think
planning.
planning. Yeah.
Mm,
No, it's been a interesting is the wrong word. It's been a tough year,
yeah,
but I think that we've all learned a lot,
yeah,
maybe too much at times. But I'm hoping that everyone can get a little glimmer of light out of this in the future, if not now. Moving
yeah.
forward. Um,
Yeah, I think we'll get some resilience from it. We've all become more resilient. We know that we can survive this. We know that we don't have to leave our house. We know that we can cobble something together out of whatever's in the freezer. So I think, yeah, we'll get through it.
yeah, we will. We'll get through it. Come on, everyone. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so the night we met is out on May the 13th as
Yes,
paperback. We'll wait to hear
yes.
more about it. So, where can people go to see more details about where they can get the note, the distance, the postcard? I've got them in the wrong order, haven't I? And
No,
the
that's
night.
right. That's right. That's the
Okay,
right order.
yeah,
My Instagram is normally the one that has the most updates on, which is Zoë Folbigg. I have a website, zoefolbigg.com, and just generally, yeah, mainly my Instagram is where I'm not very good at Twitter, but I tend to kind of promote things via Instagram. But yeah, that's where the updates are. The note has been optioned for TV, and the production company's now getting that out. It's a long process, but getting it out to be made. Broadcasters on board. So yeah, that's exciting. But any updates I'll be putting on my Instagram with that. So
yeah,
watch
that
this
is
space.
really, really exciting. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Zoe, and I'll put the links in the comments below, and on the podcast, I'll put the links in as well. People listening, thank you so much. It's been such a lovely time catching up properly. So I love
Yeah, you
this
too.
podcast. It's just a really good chat.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
good luck with the launch, and I hope to see you face to face
Thank
soon.
you. Thank you. Thank you, Georgina. Take care.
Yay! Thank you. That was really good.